doesn't have many people in his corner these days, but the ones he does have are notable. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and today we're going to talk about one of Putin's supporters in particular.
Let's break down the UN vote for you. It happened last night. 23 African countries voted in favor of the UN General Assembly resolution condemning Russia's military action in Ukraine and demanding its unconditional troop withdrawal. This includes heavyweights Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and Egypt. South Africa was among a group of 18 African countries that abstained, joining Mali, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. Eritrea was the only country from the continent to vote against the adoption of the text.
The result of the vote is as follows. In favor, 141, against 5, abstentions 35. Draft resolution is adopted.
About a week ago, the UN approved a resolution condemning Putin's actions in Ukraine. And of all the voting nations, only a handful voted against the resolution: Russia itself, Belarus, North Korea, Syria, and Eritrea. The usual suspects for the most part, most of which don't really need a whole lot of explanation. China, by the way, has called Russia a, quote, chief strategic partner, while not explicitly condemning or supporting the invasion of Ukraine. But why is Eritrea taking such a strong stance in favor of Putin, effectively aligning itself with the likes of North Korea? I'd been wondering about this, especially considering Eritrea's history, not to mention its current circumstance. The answer, according to an article from The Economist, is that Eritrea isn't so much pro-Putin as it is anti-American. In the article, author and professor Game Kabrib says, the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, or the EPLF, always considered the Soviet Union as a strategic ally against imperialism and saw America as its number one enemy.
Russia's position increasingly isolated among the 193 member states, with just 4 countries, Belarus, Syria, the DPRK, and Eritrea, siding with Moscow, despite this effort from its envoy.
We call on you not to support this draft. However, we know about the unprecedented pressure that our Western partners are exerting on a large number of countries. This document will not allow us to end military activities. On the contrary, it could embolden Kiev radicals and nationalists to continue to determine the policy of their country at any price.
So, some brief history on Eritrea. It used to be a part of Ethiopia. If you look at the two nations on a map, you'll see that Ethiopia is a landlocked nation that once had a coastline, but it lost it to Eritrea. While there were various attempts in the past to unite or separate the two nations, eventually Eritrea gained its independence from Ethiopia in 1993. Following Eritrean independence, there have been moments of solidarity between the Eritreans and the Ethiopians. In many ways, Eritrea's relationship with Ethiopia is similar to Ukraine's relationship with Russia. They're the same people, separated by a border. If you look into the history of the region, there are strong, rich cultural ties among the people that are centuries old, going all the way back to ancient and biblical times. Similarly, as with Russia and Ukraine, many Ethiopians were upset when Eritrea was granted its independence, with some still viewing Eritrea as part of Ethiopia rather than as its own separate nation. Despite this, Eritrea has sided with the Russian aggressors rather than with the Ukrainians, with whom they would presumably have more in common. However, in Eritrea's struggles over the recent decades, it has oftentimes found itself at odds with the US, which has tended to favor the Ethiopians. This has led Eritrea to adopt an isolationist approach to global politics, despite earlier attempts to assert itself in that arena. Today, conflict is rife along the border between Ethiopia and Eritrea, specifically in the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia. Eritrea's involvement in the ongoing civil war in Ethiopia has led to crippling sanctions against the Eritrean leadership and military on the grounds that Eritrean forces are using deadly force and exacting inhumane treatment against the northern Ethiopians, exacerbating an already devastating humanitarian crisis. As a result, the Horn of Africa is extremely unstable, which has larger geopolitical implications considering its strategic location along the Red Sea and opposite the Middle East. While Eritrea doesn't have the global reputation of North Korea, or the incessant news coverage of Syria, or even the more recent headlines of Belarus, it's still a significant holdout in the condemnation against Putin and his invasion. With the Eritrean leader fiercely independent to the point of rejecting foreign aid because he doesn't want to be beholden to Western authority, he's made a decent ally in Putin. Putin has promised military support to Eritrea in exchange for access to the Eritrean coastline along the Red Sea. The conflict between Ethiopia and Eritrea has long been watched as a time bomb for both Africa and the Middle East. With Eritrea alienating almost all of its neighbors, it's a prime protege for Putin's Russia.